My name is Lana, and I'm a fan of sensual stories and explicit movies. I've put together a collection of the best stories that I'm sharing with you. Now, we're going to listen to a very special one. Let's go! This story took place back in the late 70s, when I was 22, out of college and working, but still living at home, which wasn't bad, but had to be, until I could save enough to get my own place. Mom and Dad were just working class people, with Mom working at the local school near us. Every summer, just before she had to be back to work, she would have a party for her friends that she worked with, which included a few teachers she was friends with. Now, I knew almost all of them who were going to be there, including this one teacher, Nancy, who was 38, single, and a gym teacher. Now, Nancy was a nice lady, and since I was graduated from college, she said I could call her by her first name now. Nancy had been always a teaser with me, even when I was going in high school. But since then, she'd even teased me about Euro stuff and flirt too. Nancy was an okay-looking woman with a 36C breast, nice toned legs, with her thighs that were muscular, and had a great ass. I've heard my mom and others talk about her and her promiscuous ways, and I will admit, had many a time thought of her as I masturbated. The night of the party was the first Saturday in August, so it was hot, and Nancy showed up around 6 p.m. to help lend a hand to my mom. I wasn't sticking around for this party since most of the people there were in their 40s and 50s and just not my type of party to be at. Nancy came in and started chatting with Mom, and then me, asking what I have been up to of late. She was wearing tan shorts that definitely showed off her ass, and a blue halter top and no bra. That caught my eye, but I tried not to stare. She asked if I was staying, but I said no. She laughed and said, "So what are you doing tonight, Studley?" I told her going down to the boat and hang out with friends. My buddy and I recently purchased a new board together and used it as much as we could. Nancy asked when I was taking her out on it. I said anytime you want to. I wanted to get going, so I asked if she minded moving her car since she had blocked me in. As we got outside, she said that she was serious about the boat ride, and I said so was I. I said, "Well, how does Tuesday evening sound?" I already knew the weather was going to be hot and sunny the whole next week. She said, "Great. How does 6 sound?" I said cool, and that I would pick her up since the parking where the dock was limited. She then said, "We better not say anything to your mom," and I agreed with that. She asked what she would wear, and being a smartass, I said nothing would be fine. She laughed and said, "Stud, you couldn't handle me that way." I laughed and said, "Shit, once you had me, you'd go back and slap every guy you'd ever been with." To which we both laughed. I did go hang out for a few hours down on the river, then decided to come home. It was kind of boring down there, and I had plans for the morning to go golfing. When I got home, most everyone was gone, except Nancy and another lady I didn't really know who it was. I was introduced to her, and her name was Carol, another teacher friend of my mom's and also Nancy's. Nancy was getting ready to leave when I came in, And after the small talk with her and Carol and my mom, Nancy needed me to move my car now. When we were back outside, she told me she left her address and phone number on my dresser in my bedroom and to call her Tuesday so she can be ready when I came to get her. I told her no problem and I would. As I turned around, she squeezed my ass and said I got a nice butt. I was a little stunned by that, but said nothing and chuckled. Nancy was a little on the drunk side, but looked like she was okay to drive. After coming back, I excused myself and went to bed, where I had a hard-on within seconds, thinking how I'd like to kiss her once. On Tuesday, I raced home from work, took a shower, and threw on some shorts and a polo shirt. My parents just got home from work too, and so I told them I was going fishing out at a lake that was like an hour from us, with buddies from work, and probably will spend the night there. They said have a good time, and I went and got my fishing stuff and threw it in the trunk. I had already called Nancy to confirm that she still wanted to go. Unlike my mom, Nancy still had 2 weeks of vacation left. I arrived at close to 6 and went up to her apartment to get her. She opened the door and let me in and said she'd be ready in 5 minutes and for me to have a seat. She was wearing a white halter top and really enhanced her tits and a pair of loose-fitting cut-off jeans that were short, and when she turned away, I could see her ass cheeks pretty clearly. We left her place and drove about 20 minutes to the dock where we kept the boat. I knew my buddy wouldn't be using it tonight since he worked second shift for his job. On the way there, she asked what happened to me and Lana, a girl that also works at the school that I took out a couple of times. I told her that it just didn't click and that she was still hung up on her ex-fiancé. Nancy said that he really screwed her head up, but told me not to worry. A good-looking guy like me would find another woman. She also said to play the field as long as you can and don't get tired down and enjoy all the sex you can get, 'cause once you marry, that shit ends. We both laughed at that. Like I said, she has a really nice body, but just an ordinary look, not some stunner. After arriving, we got the boat uncovered, and then I started it up. It was a 22-footer with a 150 HP inboard-outboard motor with a cuddy cabin. It didn't take long for us to navigate the river and out into the lake, and so we drove around, going fast and then slowing down so the waves wouldn't beat us up. But I did enjoy her standing next to me and watching her tits bounce all around. I know one time she caught me looking at her tits and just smiled. I even let her drive for a bit, but she said to stand close to her in case I needed to take over. As she moved in front of me to take over driving, her butt rubbed right onto my D, and she stayed there for a second. I was thinking, damn, I wish we were naked when she did that. She was having a good time, and so I slowed us down to just sit out there and take in the sights of the shoreline. She said this was her first time on a boat and out in the lake. As we set out in the lake, she got up and opened the doors to the cabin and went down. As she was going down, I could see her ass very nicely at the bottom of her shorts. She was starting back up and asked how many women have visited that area. I told her not many and laughed. She said, "What a shame. It would be a great place to have some fun," and winked at me. As she came back up on the desk, she slipped because a boat went by and ours was caught in the wake, which made the boat rock. She ended up in my lap, and my arms and hands held onto her so she wouldn't fall to the deck. My one hand rested right on her breast, and I could feel the twitching in my pants. I was getting a little excited down there, and she had to have felt it. After the boat stopped rocking, she gracefully got up and moved over to be next to me and kissed me on the cheek. Not a word was said about my hand being on her breast. She then got her purse and brought out a baggie and asked if it was all right if she smoked this. I told her to go ahead, but I couldn't right now since you never know when the Coast Guard could be around and the driver has to be sober. She lit it up and smoked some of it, and then said she'll share some later with me. I said cool, I could go for some. She asked what I told my mom I was doing tonight. I told her I was going fishing with friends from work and I'd be out late or may just stay at the guy's cabin, and that I wasn't sure what I was going to do there. I told her I probably would come back down to the boat and sleep on it, like I have many times. But I told Mom it depended on how much I drank when fishing. It was started to get late, about 8 p.m., and I wanted to head back in, plus it was so muggy out, we were sweating just sitting there. She asked if I had eaten yet, and I said no. She said, let's get a pizza and go back to her apartment, where we could eat, and then use the apartment pool. I said, okay, let's do that. As we headed back in, she was right next to me with her arm around mine, stating she needed to keep her balance. I didn't mind, because her boob was also resting on my arm, and her mamillas were sticking way out. I wanted to reach over and pull her top down and bite one of those mamillas. Once we got back in, I tied us up and said I could come back later and cover the boat. She went over to the payphone and ordered a pizza from the shop near her place. On the drive back, we were laughing and talking about the people she works with and how most of them are so stuck on themselves. She even dropped a few F-bombs about some of them. She said that my mom was so old-fashioned and she always gets a kicked out of talking about sex around her, just to see Mom's face turn red. I said, oh, I know. I'm surprised that I was even born. Though I did tell her I have a few X-rated VCR tapes, and one day I found one in the player, so I really don't know how straight-laced my parents are and definitely didn't want to know. Nancy was laughing hard and saying she couldn't even imagine my mom giving Dad a BG or Dad going down on my mom. I kept going, ew, please stop, and laughed. We picked up the pizza and headed up to her place. Nancy got each of us a beer and plates for the pizza, and we enjoyed our little dinner with some more banters about her work associates. Then she lit up another joint, but this time I also partook in it. After we finished, she said, let's go swimming. I asked if it was still open. She said to residents, it's always open, as long as you have the key. I said I don't have a suit, and she said just wear your shorts you have, and when we were done, I throw them in the dryer. She told me to go change in her room, which I did. As I finished up, Nancy came in and said she was going to change now and went off to her bathroom. I went back out into the living room and waited. She came out in this black two-piece, and she did look fine. She said she got it just before her and her friend Carol and her boyfriend went to Myrtle Beach a few weeks back. She even twirled around, and all I could say is wow. She just smiled and said, "Let's go." We grabbed some towels and she put on flip-flops and I bowed on my boat shoes and we went. The pool is an indoor one and is in her building. Once we were inside, no one was around and we got in. We swam some and then splashed each other. One time she came up behind me and wrapped her arms around me and flipped me over. After I came back up from the water, she had already swam away and was sitting on the edge. Now, mind you, we both had a pretty cool buzz on too. I swam over to her and got between her outstretched legs. I said, "I will get you back," and she just laughed and said I doubt it. My head was right in line with her covered kitty, and I so badly wanted to start licking her thighs, but then thought better of that. She must have been thinking it too, because her legs closed around my head, and I heard her giggle some. Then she reached her arms around my neck and told me to catch her. She pushed off and came down. With her arms still around my neck, she splashed in the water, and my hands caught her ass, and her legs wrapped around my waist. She said, "Nice catch." I said, "Nice butt you have." She said, "Thanks," and it was about time I noticed it. She then kissed me on the lips. Not a long, passionate one, but just a light, lingering type. Then she let go and started swimming away. Total tease this woman was. I'm sure she could feel my heart D when her legs were around me like that. I swam slowly so my D would start to go down. We got to the steps and she said, "Let's go finish the pizza and then you can shower off." We got back to her room and the air was on and her mamillas were straining to poke through the material. She showed me where the towels were and I got into the shower. As I was in there, she opened and said she was going to dry my shorts. Good thing she had frosted glass or she would have seen my very hard D then. I stood under the water for a few minutes, then turned the water to get colder, so my hard-on would go down. I was drying off and wondering what the hell I was going to wear while waiting for my shorts. Nancy called from the hall that she put a robe on the counter for me to wear. I saw it and started putting it on. It was black and satin, and I was thinking to myself, shit, I get a hard-on now. No way would this hide it. But it was better than walking out nude. Once I was out, she said, "Make myself comfy," while she showered. She said, "Check out what was on any of the movie channels." She had HBO and Cinemax, which was a new thing for all of us in the area. HBO was playing some dumb movie and Cinemax had Cinemax After Dark going, which was soft Euro film, except they never showed a guy excited. This one was about two couples stranded in a snowstorm in a cabin they rented for the weekend. As I heard the water shut off, I turned that movie off, saying I didn't need anything to get me going like that. Nancy came out of the shower wearing this peach nightgown that was pretty thin, and if I looked hard enough, I could see her dark areolas through the material. Damn, she looked hot in it. It fell just below her knees, And when she went into the kitchen to get us beer, it clung nicely to her ass, and she wasn't wearing any panties. I was thinking that she was going to tease the F out of me or F my brains out. She brought back more beers and sat next to me, with her legs curled under her. I was trying not to look her way and get all horny. We were eating and watching this lame movie until she took the remote and said, "Let me find something better than this." She went through a bunch of channels until she came to Cinemax and turned it on. At this point in the movie, the two couples were naked with the girls sitting on the kitchen table, legs spread, and the guys eating them. Nancy said, looks like a good movie here. But she said they never show the guys hard, which is so wrong. She goes to me, "It looks like you're enjoying it too." She asked if I ever ate a woman before, and I said, "Oh yes," and told her about a time 2 years previous that I had love with a married woman, and she taught me the correct way to eat. Nancy gasped a little and said, "No effing way," to which I said, "Oh hell yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do." Nancy got up and went to the entertainment stand and got out a VCR tape and loaded it. On came a movie that was already in progress. This one had 3 couples, all naked, one making love on the floor, one had a guy eating the girl on the couch, and the other couple in a 69 and just going at it. She came back and sat right next to me, legs folded under her, and said that if we were going to watch such film, it might as well be a good one where she had seen some hard D. After a few minutes, people were switching partners and 2 ladies started going at it and got into a 69 position. I could see Nancy liked seeing that as she let out a slight moan. She asked what I thought of that, and I said it was cool with it and had done it before. She giggled and said, "No way." I said, "Oh yeah, at a party at that couple's house." I asked her if she ever did a woman, and she said yes, many times, and enjoys it. Love is for fun and enjoyment, especially if you can get your partner off every time. She laughed and said she wished more guys thought like that. She lit up another cigar and took a big hit. Then pulled my head close to her and shotgunned the smoke into my mouth. It was kinda sexy. Then she did it again, but this time after a catch in the smoke, she kissed me. The kiss turned into a very passionate one, with our tongues exploring each other, which lasted a few minutes, with both of us moaning into each other's mouth. She broke the kiss, took another hit, and repeated what we just did. As we kissed, her one hand reached down and rubbed my cock through the satin material. She broke the kiss and asked if I liked that. I acted cool, so I didn't sound too excited, and whispered, "Yes, it felt so good." She put the cigar in the ashtray and came back and kissed me again, her tongue deep in my mouth. My hand went up and caressed her one breast, which made her moan now. Then comes a too explicit part, which I skip because of YouTube restrictions. You can find out how to listen to the extended version of the story in the description below, or by watching a separate short video on my channel. The link is on the screen. See you later.